What's up, guys? Alright, Fox, it's me, and welcome to the all-new episode of FoxCast Creepypastas, where today we are reading Voices Over the Radio by Devil Juice. Now, this one is one that I found when looking on No Sleep here, and it seemed pretty interesting. So, thought I would give it a shot. So, without further ado, let's get right into this, shall we? Let's go! Voices Over the Radio by Devil Juice. Okay, so lately something weird has been going on at my work, and it's got me pretty freaked out. I recently started working as a security guard through a local security contractor. It doesn't really pay all that much, and it isn't exactly my ideal workplace. However, it does pay slightly above the minimum wage, and is one of the least demanding jobs I've ever worked. So, works well enough for me. Plus, I only really plan on sticking around until something better comes along. So it hardly matters to me whether or not it's fulfilling work. I have a couple of different postings I switch between. However, lately, the main location I work is the local coffee machine factory/warehouse as the night guard. I mostly end up working the 12-hour overnight shifts on the weekends, with a couple of 8-hour shifts during the week. The long shifts can often be quite the slog, but I don't mind them too much. There's actually very little I'm required to do, especially with the reduced traffic in and out at night and on the weekends. I'm allowed to do pretty much whatever I want in my free time, other than sleep. So I often spend a fair bit of my shifts on Netflix or playing games on my phone. It's hard to complain about a job like that. The few duties I do have are pretty much standard for this kind of work. Other than the patrols I go on every 2 hours, I spend most of my shift in an office at the edge of the building, overlooking the main parking lot. In this office, there are several monitors with camera feeds on them that I am supposed to keep a close eye on. For the most part, I do pay decent attention to them. However, as I quickly learned early on in my shifts here, there is very rarely any activity around the cameras. Half of them are broken, and the other people who work here on nights generally work in unmonitored areas. So there's rarely any need to pay too close attention to the feeds. In addition to that though, there is a phone in the office I need to keep mind of, and a two-way radio I am required to keep on my person at all times. The phone is a direct line to the buzzer at the front gate, so I can talk to anyone who needs access to the facility. However, most of the people who have any reason to be there at night generally have a key card to let themselves in, so the thing rarely goes off. The radio, on the other hand, is for if somebody else in the facility needs to get a hold of me for some reason. As you can probably guess, though, this hardly ever happens. Frankly, it's almost as if I'm there on my own time. I rarely have any sort of reason to go into populated areas of the facility, as my patrol routes don't go anywhere near those parts of the facility. I suppose management just figured there was no reason to have me keep an eye on the area when the employees would do that simply by being there. It can be lonely, sure, but I don't really mind. Rather, I actually sort of prefer it that way. The people who work here, though, can be odd, to say the least. Overall, it's been sort of a laid-back gig. If it wasn't for what's going on lately, I wouldn't have anything to complain about. Let me explain. It all started happening a few nights ago, on one of my patrols, which by themselves can often be rather unnerving. There's just something about wandering through an unlit, deserted factory in the dead of night that is inherently creepy. The fact that I'm practically alone out there hardly helps my feelings as well. Honestly, though, I'd probably dislike it even more if I had to run into employees on a regular basis. It's already awful enough bumping into them on occasion, so much so that I'm practically peering around corners just so I can avoid that happening. As such, I'm usually on edge for the majority of my walkabouts. I was on the leg of the patrol that took me around the perimeter fence, specifically the part that borders the woods out back, when my radio started crackling all of a sudden. The unexpected noise startled me, but it wasn't entirely unexpected. The radio would often go off like that when the workers were either trying to get a hold of me or just talking amongst themselves. In all my time working there, though, it had never been the former. But I held up the radio to my ear anyway, not wanting to get into trouble for not answering. At first, all I could hear was a strange sort of static, as if something nearby was interfering with the signal. I was just about to write it off as something a technical issue, but then I started to hear the voices. They were coming really garbled and faint, as if multiple people were all talking at the same time on the same channel. I could only make out a few bits and pieces here, but what I did hear was enough to both convince me that this was certainly not coming from any of the employees, and completely freak me out. It was a cacophony of weak cries, like pained whispers repeating things like, "It's so cold, I can't see, and I can't breathe," over and over again. Needless to say, I noped out of there pretty quickly, rushing through the rest of my patrol just so I could get back inside as soon as possible. I had to do the same patrol 2 hours later, of course, and I certainly wasn't ecstatic about that. However, it didn't happen again on that shift. I tried bringing it up with my relief, who happened to luckily be the senior security officer at that posting, but he didn't have much of anything helpful to say about it. His take on it was that it was simply pretty freaky, and that was probably just some dumb kids or something. I wasn't sure that was a solid explanation, however, I was eager enough for any excuse to write off the voices as nothing to worry about. The problem with that being, it's pretty hard to write something off when it doesn't stop. It doesn't happen every shift, but when it does, it's usually around the same time and place. During my 3 a.m. perimeter patrol, near the woods out back, the voices usually say the same sort of things, but every now and then I'll get one that comes in especially strong and overpowers the other whispers. These ones can be especially terrifying or just seem to completely come out of the left field. Things like a woman screaming, "It hurts!" over and over again, or a young girl, less than 10, whispering, "Beware, the shadow without a face." Hell, I even think I've heard my name once. Maybe all of this is just nothing. It could be some random noise that I am picking up from a radio station or something like that for all I know. I could just ditch this job and pull this behind me if I really feel I need to, but I'd rather not go through the trouble if I can avoid it. Besides, what if somebody is actually in trouble and needs help? I'm going to figure out what's happening on my end. If you guys have any thoughts on what might be going on, or have any advice on what I should do going forward, please let me know. I'll keep you all posted if there are any major developments worth posting about. God, I hope I'm not overthinking this. This is actually the start of a recent series here. It was written 1 month ago by Devil Juice, and I'm waiting for the second part, so we'll see here. We'll see how it works out. What's going on? So, thank you guys for watching this all new episode of FoxCast Creepypasta. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next